Jessica is now age 52, and she came to us a few years ago. She was a federal employee. She had to end up retiring on disability, I think, when she was around 50 or 48, 50 years old, a couple of years ago. And she had rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease. She had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, daily migraines, chronic stomach pain, and a lot of body pain. And do you want to talk a little bit about Jessica's story?
Yes. So Jessica's symptoms were really severe when she came to see us. Almost everything on her symptom sheet was rated a 10. She was in a lot of physical pain. The fibromyalgia combined with the rheumatoid arthritis made her days pretty miserable. Everything in her body hurt. She was forced to retire early because she could no longer physically go into work every day and actually have a normal work day. And so she was really desperate for some answers when she came to see us. She had been dealing with these health conditions for years, 15 years. She was dealing with the migraines, the RA for almost 15 years as well. And so she was really desperate. She was looking for, why. She wanted to know why she was having all of these different health issues. And so we did lab work with Jessica, and we found some mycotoxins, some mold toxicity in Jessica's body. As you can see here, every symptom listed on this list of mycotoxin symptoms known to be associated with mycotoxins, Jessica had. She had every single symptom: the joint pain, the chronic fatigue, issues sleeping, the gut-related symptoms, brain fog, systemic inflammation. She was having major food sensitivities and starting to see the cognitive decline and issues with her memory. We could tie all of that to the different molds that we found in Jessica's body. We also looked for chemical toxins. And here you can see she had a very long list of chemical toxins in her body, some of them very high levels. Her glyphosate was in the extreme range. She had parabens also in the extreme range, and several other different types of toxins. And then you can see her symptoms here, all of which are associated with these types of chemical toxins. Again, the chronic joint pain, she had full body pain, the brain fog, the gut issues, the mental health related issues. She had depression and anxiety that she was managing as well. So we were able to connect all of her symptoms to not only the mycotoxins, but the chemical toxins as well. And then we dug a bit deeper into the food issues because she had a lot of different food sensitivities. We did a test called the wheat zoomer, and we did a gut zoomer for her to look really specific at what was going on in her microbiome. She had really extreme reactions to wheat. She said she was mostly gluten-free, but just a tiny bit of gluten causes a massive reaction, a long-lasting reaction for someone who's highly sensitive. And she had really extreme reactions to not just wheat and gluten, but she was also reacting to lectins, and so dairy as well. So we helped her modify her diet and take out all the foods that were contributing. Many of the foods she was eating every day were actually contributing to all of that inflammation. And so once we started to remove all those foods, which we did in the first and second month, look at the difference between her first month, where almost everything was a 10, and her second month. A lot of things dropped drastically. Her bloating went from a 10 to a 2 after we removed all those offending foods. The stomach pain went down from a 10 to a 5. Her headaches got much better after just 1 month. Her back pain, her all over body aches, her fatigue, all of these things got better just with major shifts in her diet. So having that information was really crucial to helping Jessica come up with the ideal plan for her. And then we got her started on detoxing her body, and her symptoms changed over the course of a year. And eventually everything went into the green. Most symptoms are now zeros, ones, twos. We're still working with Jessica on wellness and optimizing her body. but she lost quite a bit of weight. She has a lot less inflammation in her body, and she's able to get out and walk her dogs every day. And without the pain, she feels so much better physically. And I will add that she was on some pretty intense medications for rheumatoid arthritis. She was on, it's an IV that you go get monthly or every other month, an immunosuppressant drug. She is off of that. And her doctor was so surprised. Her doctor told her, not many people, no people do I ever see get off of this medication. And she was able to get off of that medication and many of her others after making these really big lifestyle changes.
Yeah. And I want to jump in on how she lost the 43 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you are sick and you're overweight? Raise your hand. How many of you are sick and overweight? Okay. And then how many of you have tried, like you've tried keto, you've tried, calorie counting, you've tried all that, and maybe you lose a little bit, but then you have rebound weight gain, gaining even more than where you were before. How many of you can relate to that? That happened to me a long time ago. I remember that. So how many of you want to understand why that happens? Let me explain this to you. So when we have an accumulation of toxins, weight gain is just one of the many symptoms that we experience. Our body is doing everything it can because it's realizing that we don't know what to do, right? We don't know what to do. Our body is highly intelligent. Our body will take and encapsulate. It will create more fat. It will create more fat, even if you're eating perfect, right? How many of you, like, you actually eat really well and you keep gaining weight and you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, I can just look at food and I gain weight, right? Like, right? There's a lot of us that have struggled with that. Your body is doing everything that it can to protect you. And one of the things that it can do, see, your body cannot detoxify these toxins on its own. There are a few of them that will leave the body naturally, but most of these accumulate in the body, which makes them double toxic. It makes them double dangerous to you because they get stuck in the body and they can't come out naturally. And so the body does what it can to protect you. It will create more fat cells, encapsulate the toxins inside of the fat cells, and start depositing it all over your body because it's got to have a storage for it somewhere. And so when you start doing, like, let's say keto, for example, and you're forcing those fat cells to be used, then you're not only forcing the fat cells to actually be gobbled up, you're releasing those toxins back into your bloodstream. They're recirculating. They get deposited in another area of your body. Your body realizes it's there. There's a lot of mechanisms, right? And your body goes, oh my God, we need to re-encapsulate it again. So it creates more fat cells and it goes and encapsulates it now in a new area. So now maybe in the first few years you were gaining weight mostly maybe in your belly. Then all of a sudden you start gaining weight in your outer thigh. Now you're gaining weight in your arms. Now you're gaining weight here in your chin. You're like, what is going on here? I don't understand. It's because of this toxic overload. And so we see, like, what, Anne, probably 90% of our clients tend to be overweight when they're chronically sick. Well, they all have these toxic chemicals in their body. As they start getting the chemicals out of their body, the weight just comes off. So what you're seeing here in Jessica's story, in Jessica's case study, is actually common. Like, we see this all the time. Women, men, the weight just starts coming off. And they're like, oh my God, I'm eating more than I've ever eaten before. I'm starting to feel better. Like, I'm actually eating 3 or 4 times a day and the weight's coming off. And they realize it was the toxins all along. So if maybe you're here because you have an interest in this type of work, but maybe you're not super sick, but maybe you've got a weight issue. That can be one of those pre-symptoms. That can be those pre-symptoms that you're having before you end up with these chronic symptoms, conditions, and diseases where you start to get really sick. So if you're one of those people that's gaining weight, you're gaining weight, you're gaining weight, you do, you try to do keto, you're doing all the things, you'll maybe lose some weight and then you'll plateau and then you gain it back again, right? Consider that your body probably has a big toxic load. So if you start working with that, the weight is going to start to come off when you start to detoxify, and you're going to start to notice a lot of other improvements in all your systemic engines. Your blood pressure will go down, your hormones will start to normalize. And, as women practitioners, Dr. Ty and Ann and I, who work with a lot of women's hormones, we can attest to that. You want to balance your hormones? Do you know the number one most important thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you're eating the right foods for you, because there is bioindividuality with food. There's not one way to eat that's right for everybody. And you need to make sure that you get the toxins out of your body. You do those two things, and most of the time, your hormones will re-regulate. Everything will come back online for you, right? And so it's just really important for us to understand that with the weight thing, right? A lot of the weight issues it's not always just because you're not eating the right way. A lot of times it's a sign and a symptom. Your body's trying to tell you that you've got toxic overload. So we are coming to the end. How many of you loved tonight? Raise your hand. How many of you are so glad that you are here? How many of you learned something new? How many of you were inspired by all of these amazing case studies and stories? And pop stuff into the chat. Let us know what you thought. What was your biggest takeaway for today? What inspired you the most? Pop it into the chat. I want to see it. Let me know what inspired you the most. And we're going to be talking about detoxification. We have developed protocols over the years that are less expensive, less bottles of supplements, and they are proven effective 100% of the time if you do it the way that we teach you how to do it. And we're going to be offering all of this to you. And this is the thing, there are many different detoxification protocols out there. Nobody else except for us have the years of case studies behind them. And so when I tell you that it takes an average of 9 months to get toxins out, this is from all of our case studies. This is from all the data that we've collected. Only recently have other companies and other businesses out there started doing case studies because they're catching on of what we're doing. And I'm glad that they're doing that. If you're going to tell me to take something, you better show me some case studies of how it works, because I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste my money. Now, the other thing is that most protocols out there tend to be 25 bottles or more. Raise your hand. Actually, hold on just a second. I'm going to lower everybody's hands. Raise your hands if you have gone onto protocols, worked with other practitioners, or you're a practitioner yourself, and the protocols that you learned to put people on were like 15 bottles or more. Raise your hand. 15 bottles or more. Yeah. 20 bottles or more. 30, 40. We've had people come to us who were on over 70 bottles of supplements. Oh my, how do you even swallow that many pills a day? Even if you're only taking one pill, and he wasn't taking just one pill once a day of each of those 70 something bottles, right? He was probably taking 2 of these, 3 of these, 1 of these, 2 to 3 times a day, right? And then it gets even more complicated because you got to take this one in between meals. You can't take it with the other supplements. I mean, it gets super complicated. And when you're sick, that's the last thing you need. You need things simple. You need them with as few bottles of supplements as possible, and you need them as affordable as possible. This is how we make big impact and change, is to make it as easy, simple, and affordable as possible. And so we have put proven protocols together. And just like with understanding how to do keto, for example, or lose weight or get yourself in shape, we can tell it to you. Where you're going to be the most successful, though, is when you have mentoring and you have coaching, right? When you've got a practitioner or a group of practitioners, as in our case, working with you every single month, taking you step by step by step. And all of these people, they didn't just get a protocol, which we're happy to send it, but most people are not going to do it on their own. Right? They're just not going to do it on there. They're going to have a lot of questions. They're not going to understand. They didn't do the testing, so they don't know what their baseline is. They don't know how to track their progress with their metrics, with follow-up labs and assessment forms. They don't know how to track it with their symptom sheets. They need help. They need somebody to give them motivation. They need a community. Who wants to join our community? Because you can have these same type of results when you join our community. And we have a lot of people pop into the chat. Those of you who are working with us, we've gotten a lot of feedback from our clients who have been working with us for years, who say that every time they watch one of our master classes, they learn something new. Pop it into the chat if you're here online with us today and you're already working with us. And tell the other people who are here, tell them about our community and how amazing that our community is. There's Jennifer, been working with us for over a year. We have a lot of people. We have over a 95% success rate